government calls Cecil Kirk.
Kirk, if you would, please, sir, if you'd come forward.
As you know, Mr. Kirk, in 1978, the House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations reinvestigated the assassination of President Kennedy. Were you one of 20 experts chosen from around the country to sit on a panel to look at the photographic evidence?
Yes, sir, I was. This is 312, and this is by far one of the clearer frames, and it shows the orientation of the president, and you can also see that Mr. Connolly now is starting to lean back on his wife. She actually is pulling him back towards her. Next slide, please. This is the headshot at 313. This mass that we see here is what the medical people call particulate matter, but us lay people will call brain tissue, blood, and other items that's being emitted from the president's head.
Okay. Looking at frame 313, is one of the points that caused your panel to conclude the shot came from the rear the fact that the spray of brain matter is all to the front?
Yes, that's correct.
Did your panel prepare a high contrast photo of that frame 313?
Yes, sir, we did.
Can we put that on the screen?
You can see that the particulate matter is going forward of the president, coming in this direction. You can see the cone here of mass that's going in a forward direction.
In addition to the spray of brain matter all to the front, do frames 313 and 314 actually show the president's head being pushed forward slightly by the momentum of the bullet?
Yes, it does.
Can we see those frames now and point that out to the jury?
Again, this is frame 312, and I would ask the jury to note that this is the rear seat, the back of the seat. And, of course, this is the body, the torso of the president at 312. 313, please. We concluded that there's a definite space opening there between the seat and the president at 313, moving forward. 314, please. 314, the space is larger.
So he's moving forward at 313 and 314.
Yes. At 315,
starts to go back.
He starts to go back. 316. Goes back a little bit more, 317. And he's almost back to the seat, as you can see there.
Did your panel conclude that this head snap to the rear, or whatever it is, was caused, as some of the critics have contended, by a bullet from the front?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay, can we put the backyard photo series on the screen? Mr. Kirk, this appears to be a photograph of Oswald holding a rifle with a revolver in his holster, and I believe he's holding two newspapers up. Mr. Oswald told Captain Fritz during his interrogation that was not he in that photograph. It was his head, but it was superimposed upon someone else's body. Did your photographic panel address itself to that issue?
Well, we were asked to identify whether or not the photograph was faked or not. Could I have the next slide, please? The allegation was that this area in here was created by montage. In other words, that part of Oswald's face being matched up to a figure, not Oswald, below the chin line. And a lot of the critics interpreted this line as being signs of a montage. Next slide up, please. But when we look at the first generation photograph, in other words, a photograph made off of the negative that was recovered by the Warren Commission, we see that line is not there. But as you copy photographs and increase contrast, anytime you have a shadow, it creates the illusion of being a line.
Mr. Bugliosi, call your next witness, please.
Dr. Charles Petty.
If you would, please. Doctor, if you'd come forward.
Dr. Petty, were you one of 9 forensic pathologists from around the country chosen by the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1977 to serve on the autopsy panel reinvestigating the assassination of President Kennedy?
I was.
And what was the conclusion your panel came to as to how many bullets struck the president, their point of entry, and the path they took through the president's body?
My conclusion and the conclusion of the panel was that the president was struck by 2 bullets, one entering the right upper back and exiting in the front of the neck. the other entering the right back of the head and exiting in the what we call the right frontal area, that is the front and side of the head.
Is there any doubt in your mind, Doctor, whatsoever, that both bullets that struck the President came from the rear and no bullet struck him from the front?
None whatsoever.
Would you explain, to the best of your knowledge, to the jury what happened once the bullet entered the President's head?
The bullet began to break up into small fragments, broke the skull up into fragments, and blasted out through the right frontal part of the head.
Exhibit 102. What's that?
This is a diagram of the skull showing the point of entrance in the back of the President's head and the exit in the right frontal area.
Doctors, I'm sure you're well aware one of the principal contention of the critics is that President Kennedy's head snap to the rear around frames 315 to 320 on the Zapruder film means, in the eyes of the critics, some of them, that he must have been struck by a bullet from the front. You're aware of that contention?
Yes, I am.
What conclusion did your panel come to with respect to this head snap to the rear?
The head snap to the rear, in the view of the panel, was that this was an automatic, involuntary reaction on the part of the President's nerves and muscles. There was a blast inside the head, the nerves were fired off, and the muscles were set into action. The muscles in the back are stronger than the muscles in the front, and so therefore the head moved backward.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Petty. Assuming the President had been struck by a bullet from the front, make that assumption, could the transference of momentum from that bullet have thrown the President backward, as is shown in frames 315 to 320 of the Zapruder film?
No, sir, not in my opinion.
And why is that?
Because the head is too heavy, there's too much muscular resistance to movement.
So the killings that people see on television and in the movies, which is the only type of killings most people ever see, where the person struck by the bullet very frequently, visibly, and dramatically is propelled backward by the force of the bullets. That's not what actually happens in life when a bullet hits a human being.
No, of course not.
Dr. Petty, did you also seek to ascertain how many bullets struck Governor Connally, their point of entry, and the path they followed once they entered his body?
Yes.
And your panel arrived at a conclusion.
That is correct.
Did you tell the jury what conclusion your panel reached with respect to Governor Connally?
The panel concluded that the governor was struck in the back, that the bullet circled around the outside of the chest, exited beneath the right nipple, went on to continue through his wrist, and then on into his thigh. The right wrist, the left thigh.
Doctor, there has been testimony that Governor Connally may have reacted up to just over a second after President Kennedy reacted. Would that preclude Governor Connally and President Kennedy being struck by the same bullet?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Because people react differently to different bullets. The bullets may wound people in different areas, and even in the same area, different individuals react in different ways. They may not even know that they've been struck by a bullet.
Did your pathology panel conclude that the bullet that entered the President's upper right back and exited the front of his throat was the same bullet that went on and struck Governor Connally on his back near his right armpit?
Yes, the panel came to that conclusion.
Exhibit 130? Doctor, now on the screen to your left is the bullet purportedly removed from Governor Connally's stretcher. Did your panel examine this bullet?
Yes.
You saw the actual bullet?
Yes.
Could this bullet have ended up in this relatively pristine condition if it had entered the President's back, exited his throat, then entered Governor Connally's back near his right armpit, and taken the path through Governor Connally's body you have just described?
Yes, of
Would you
course.
explain to the jury how you arrive at this conclusion?
This bullet is a full metal jacket military bullet designed to pass through the soft tissues of an individual, exactly as it did in President Kennedy's instance. It then contacted bone only in two areas. First, the rib in Connally, and second, the wrist bone in Connally. In neither instance did it penetrate the rib or the wrist bone. It easily travels through such soft tissues as that without great deformity.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. No further questions.